I saw Superman yesterday, and I wanted to do a kind of fast review on it. I didn't take any notes while I was doing this, so it's mostly going to be like off the top of my head from what I remember. First things first, I'm basing most of the expectations I had for the movie off of the Suicide Squad movie that James Gunn did, and also the Justice League Unlimited show, which I've heard this movie was kind of loosely based around in terms of like tone. I'm also not a big Marvel or DC guy. I wasn't into the basic bitch drinking Starbucks and Uggs comic book kind of guy. I know some basic stuff and might misremember something, so please bear with me. To put it in perspective, my favorite comic book character is actually Ash from the Army of Darkness and Evil Dead franchise. I've always been more kind of a horror and monster comic book kind of guy when it came to collecting that, or more pulp stuff, kind of like how they have that new run of Dick Tracy. Take this review with a grain of salt, basically. Lastly, I do want to point out that the title of this review is Superman Reviewed by a Snyder Bro. While I do like Henry Cavill, and I think he's been getting a raw deal with these roles that he's been really wanting to play, be it by studios or shitty directors, having that sentiment out there while there's an internet battle between big-breasted man children, apparently that firmly confirms that I am on the Snyder Bro side of the fence, apparently. I really thought Henry Cavill did a decent job as Superman. It isn't his fault that the direction was bad and that the script was basically written by Mr. Burns' army of script-writing monkeys, which, ironically, those are in this new Superman movie. So with that long disclaimer out of the way, I guess let's start the review. First of all, David Corenswet, it's a pretty funny name. I don't think that's how you're supposed to pronounce it, but it looks like Corenswet. So David Corenswet as Superman, I really liked this new guy. He was pretty charming and brought an easy breezy cover girl style to the Superman character. He kind of reminded me of Christopher Reeves, which is a good thing. We haven't had really a good happy-go-lucky Superman in a movie for a while. Like, seriously, between the Snyder movies being very realistic and gritty and the amount of evil Supermen in the media lately with, you know, Homelander, Omni-Man, and even to DC's detriment, the Injustice Superman, which has been overdone to hell. It was nice to have a change of tone and go back to what the character usually is like. Now, I'm not saying you can't have a gritty, realistic Superman, it just needs to be handled better than it was with the Snyder movies, and it needs to be less of a dead horse that you're beating like Homelander. They've overdone it with The Boys and the evil Superman type thing. I feel like this Superman was lighthearted enough to be approachable to children while still taking serious things seriously and kind of having that sort of plot element for the adults. I think he was a good Superman, and I definitely would like to see this Superman in other movies, but like not a sequel, kind of like how Marvel did with the Hulk, and just have him show up in like random team-up movies or something like that. It's very hard to kind of write Superman good because he's such a blank slate that pretty much anything you do is going to get interpreted like so many different ways and hated by so many different people. You're not going to get that sense of the original Superman movie back because they really focused on the spectacle of that, but even then there was still some hints of Judaism in that script, as people have pointed out. Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor was a pretty good choice. It was leagues better than Jesse Eisenberg. It still confuses me why Snyder assumed Eisenberg was a good fit for that role. He was acting too much like the Joker than he was Lex Luthor. Nicholas Hoult did a good job in my opinion. My only major gripe would be that he seemed a bit too manic and crazy scientist-like too early in the film. I feel like that the first half he should have been more subtle, like at that part where he's having the anti-Superman press tour, versus what we actually got. I think he went a little bit too whole hog too fast, and that's not who Lex is. In the animated Justice League series, again, the thing I'm kind of basing it off of less so than the comics, he was more charismatic and more put together. The only time he really went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs is when either he was about to lose and it was a last-ditch effort, or it was like when he was trying to get Brainiac to like do the fusion dance with him again.
Brainiac, I'm coming.
I thought they did a really good job with Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen compared to the Snyder movies. She had a lot more personality and more to do in this movie. In the Snyder movies, Lois was basically Mary Magdalene, where she just kind of hovered around Superman, you know, because Mary Magdalene would hover around Jesus in the Bible, and he was kind of trying to make Superman a Jesus figure in that. The most she really did was tell Batman that Superman's mom had the same name as Batman's mom, and that was about the extent of what I can remember her character really doing that was impactful in any any of those Snyderverse movies.
Why did you say that name?
Stop! Please, stop!
Why did you say that name?
It's his mother's name!
I feel like the new Lois did a really good job at playing the character like she was portrayed in that 90s animated TV show. She was headstrong and brave without really being a burden, and was also like super smart. Plus I enjoyed how she not only acted as a journalist, but also like a real-life girlfriend to, Clark Kent Superman. She not only gets into heated arguments with him for her article.
Are you being serious right now?
Yeah.
You'd let me interview you as Superman. Recently, you've come under a lot of fire for what some might... It's a lot.
But she also questions if the relationship is going to work because Clark is a superhero, and I could see how that would impact somebody's relationship if your boyfriend has to keep flying off to save Ethiopian children. Also in this movie, Jimmy Olsen wasn't a secret agent and gets shot in the first fucking, 5 minutes that he's introduced. So that's a plus. I did like the fact that this goofy guy managed to get all these, really hot girls to be obsessed with him. That was a funny little touch that I enjoyed. So I think this is the first time in a while we've seen even a decent Jimmy Olsen in a movie. I know a lot of people liked him in the Christopher Reeves movies, but I didn't. He really didn't have much of a character, much to do. This movie actually ties him to the actual story and gives him stuff to do. I liked the Justice Gang a lot. I think James Gunn works a lot better when he's writing obscure characters. Hot Girl was played just how I remembered her from the Justice League Unlimited show. She was brash and ready for action without being a cringy girl power caricature that a lot of things are doing now when they're trying to add a strong female character to movies. She also felt like a real person when she didn't have her wings out and holding medieval weaponry, so that was nice. I also didn't know this, but apparently the woman playing Hot Girl, she was actually the lady that played Dora the Explorer in the live-action movie. Mr. Terrific I was actually already familiar with. He was in a few episodes of the JLU TV show. Minus a few Marvel-style one-liners, he was pretty accurate, and I did appreciate them giving him more of a personality than being somebody who's super smart. They actually gave him a 70s blaxploitation character vibe, kind of like a Shaft. I thought that was kind of funny. Definitely an improvement over how most of the time he's written, where he's just super smart and that's kind of about it. Guy Gardner was actually one of the most controversial parts of the movie for me. The actor playing him did a really good job, and if this were any other animated product from DC, I would appreciate his take on the character. It was actually really accurate to the comic books, and the personality was super spot on. I just think that with the Borderlands movie, he probably should have been played by somebody younger. Nathan Fillion has been playing Hal Jordan in the animated DC movies for the past 10 years, so it's kind of cool to see him play a live-action Green Lantern, but I feel like he should have been an older, mature Hal Jordan.
So you know about the hypnoclasses.
Sorry, kid. Usually I like to mentor recruits for more than a couple of hours before they have to face Armageddon.
Hal Jordan and the Flash are always kind of like the wisecrackers on the Justice League, so it's weird that they didn't just have him play Hal Jordan. Other than that, I feel like he's a memorable character, kind of like Polka Dot Man. He was really funny and probably one of the highlights of the movie. It was nice that they also didn't have him go overboard, considering that the character, I'm pretty sure, has brain damage in the comic books. I think that's right. Seeing Crypto in the movie was a nice touch too. I'm a sucker for a good dog movie. I just wish that they had used a real dog, because it's super distracting to see a CGI puppy on the screen all the time. Other than that, I used to love that animated TV show as a kid, so seeing the character again was really nice. It was really cute. He had a lot of cute scenes. I thought the villains of the film were okay. It's cool that Ultraman ended up being a surprise character, if you know the lore behind what they're getting at. I'm trying to avoid spoilers, by the way. The Engineer I had never actually heard of until this movie, so that was pretty cool to introduce a new character like that. The idea that Lex is some kind of Elon Musk or Andrew Tate character that has a big dedicated audience that almost treat him like a god is a nice touch to kind of show hey, who in their right minds would actually work for somebody who literally is risking the very fabric of reality to gain the upper hand against superheroes? So I thought that was conveyed pretty well. I also enjoyed that it was kind of modernized with that situation, because there's a few times where Lex is on TV and then he has supporters and stuff online. They touch on internet culture and stuff with those monkeys in the movie, and they put out anti-Superman tweets and stuff and rally people behind how smart and perfect Lex is gonna be if he ever became king or whatever. The plot of the film was actually under some fire. Apparently, it's an allegory for the war between Palestine and Israel right now, but to play devil's advocate, Superman being such a blank slate character, I'm pretty sure any plot you make in order to get Lex to fight Superman in a way that shows Lex's whole brain over bronze situation is gonna wind up getting people to pull things from thin air, or even if it's directly connected to something political at the time, you can easily slap that onto a Superman movie. He's basically a blank canvas for you to piggyback what you want to say off of him. That being said, I think they actually handled it pretty well, with Superman ultimately not taking an actual side in the war. His entire stance on it was, I just didn't want to see people kill one another, which in the end is a very Superman thing to do. And just to put it out there, the people who are complaining about the allegorical stuff in Superman, Superman 4 was literally about him taking all of the nukes away and then fighting a man who is made out of nukes. Gee, I wonder, because it was the 80s, what that could have been an allegory for.
As of today, I'm not a visitor anymore, because the Earth is my home too. We can't live in fear, and I can't stand idly by and watch us stumble into the madness of possible nuclear destruction. And so I've come to a decision. I'm going to do what our governments have been unwilling or unable to do. Effective immediately, I'm going to rid our planet of all nuclear weapons.
Now for the only part of this review that I think is going to be kind of spoiler-y, the post-credits scene. If you don't want to know what it is, skip ahead now. But Supergirl's in the movie. She's basically Krypto's owner, and in this universe, she's apparently a party girl, and I don't know how I feel about that. Usually it's a fish out of water story for her, but, I guess maybe update it for a modern audience. I just hope that she doesn't wind up becoming, like, the most insufferable piece of shit that you ever met, because the couple of seconds she was on screen, when she says later, bitch, yeah, you're trying too hard. So, out of 10, I'd probably give this movie a 6.5 to a 7. It's a pretty good movie. I'd watch it again if it was on TNT.